Gosh, all right, we are being recorded. Thank you everybody for being on and welcome to the ELT Training Camp. We're so excited that you're here joining us. I am Susie Lawrence and I'm the volunteer lead for the National Relay Leadership Team, or the NRLT as we call it. I relay in Roanoke, Virginia with Virginia's Blue Ridge. So I won't put that in the chat like you guys are doing. Thank you so much for telling us where you are. It's a great cross section of the country, and we really appreciate you being on so much tonight. It's really great that we can all be together so soon after Relay First Lap too. So how many of you guys were able to get out and participate? If you can put that in the chat. If you weren't, it doesn't matter. There's still time. It's never too late to renew our commitment to a new season of Relay. So just go out there, take a lap by yourself or with your team, and we'll get the season started. So to actually get down to business tonight, this is part one of the training. Part two will be Thursday night, and hope you can join us again. If you're planning on attending an in-person training in your area, though, this will be redundant information. So it's okay for you to leave this virtual training. We won't be offended. We don't want to impact your in-person experience. There'll be more covered in the in-person, and we want to be respectful of your time. So it's okay if you want to wait and experience the in-person training. The training was developed in response to what the NRLT heard from volunteers and staff alike, that we want in-person trainings. And since logistically not every ELT can attend in-person trainings, we've condensed the 4+ hour in-person training to 2 1 hour plus a little time virtual training. They're also being recorded for those who couldn't make it. So you can use this with other ELT members who won't be able to make this training or Thursdays. But keeping with our football theme, which is very appropriate tonight with the National College Championship being played, we'll be covering the first and second quarters, the new ACS branding, volunteer staff partnership, recruitment and sharing your story. And then on Thursday, we'll close out with the third and fourth quarter topics: community partnerships, effective meeting tips, mission impact, and voice of the customer results. If we can, we'll try to update you guys on the score. Again, we did not realize that the game would be played tonight when we were scheduling the training, so lesson learned there. Our presenters tonight are NRLT members, and they worked on developing this content. And I'd like to thank them for all of their efforts and sharing their talents on this project. We also have one of our team members who is running the show, Kayla Boswell, who is kind of our tech guru and responsible for getting our slides together and everything. And my staff partner, Brian Sherwood, who's going to be watching the chat for us to try to do it. I cannot multitask that well. So Zach Dane is actually going to kick things off, and he'll be leading the discussion on the kind of newish, a little it was brought in at the end of 2022 ACS branding. Again, thank you guys so much for joining us, and post any of the questions that you might have in the chat, please. So I'm going to turn over to you now, Zach. Thank you.
Thanks, Susie. Before we begin, it says currently 7-0 Michigan in the chat. So just want to make sure that you know that, because I know it's in the back of your mind. But as Susie mentioned, my name is Zach Dane. I am the Northeast Region Relay for Life lead, and I relay in Rockland County, New York, just outside of New York City. And I've been doing this for many years. I'm enjoying every second of it. And thank you all for taking the time out of your lives to join us today. The first thing we really wanted to talk to you about today is the mission and vision of the organization. You may have seen these before. You might have seen them all over the place. It's on our branding. It's in a ton of different places. But our mission is to improve the lives of cancer patients and their families through advocacy, discovery, and patient support. With the overall vision and the overall goal, it's simple: to end cancer as we know it for everyone, period, End of story. That is what we're here for. That is why we relay, and that is why we're volunteers with the American Cancer Society. And there's a lot of different ways to volunteer with the American Cancer Society, such as Relay for Life, as you know. And on the next slide, there's a few different parts that make Relay for Life what it is. We all know that we have visions of what it is. We've seen how it can transform our communities and our lives and help us to do some really amazing things. But the American Cancer Society truly exists because the burden of cancer is too high. It was originally founded, some historical things, I'm a history teacher by trade, that American Cancer Society was first founded in 1913 by 10 doctors and 5 lay people who needed to raise awareness to move the needle forward in the fight against cancer. At that time, cancer was a near death sentence, and it was whispered, if anything. Now you could wear these awesome Relay for Life shirts and American Cancer Society apparel openly without worrying because of the work of the American Cancer Society. And over the past 111 years, there's been so much that's happened, and it's really, really exciting. At the core essence of all of this with Relay for Life, there's 4 different key components that we must have in our events. And yes, they are different. We're all in different communities all over the country and the world. And although our events have these 4 key components, all of our events, if I asked you to describe your event, you'd give some slightly different response. And that's the point. It's designed to fit your community. So Relay for Life is focusing on celebrating our survivors, celebrating our caregivers, remembering those that we've lost, and providing opportunities to fight back against cancer so that no one ever has to hear the words, "You have cancer." On the next slide. In 2022, the American Cancer Society refreshed its branding and its logos to reflect a new, modern, innovative strategy of the American Cancer Society. ACS then positioned itself to have the most comprehensive impact on cancer, and with that, a renewed confidence in our ability to end cancer as we know it for everyone. See what I did there? Drop the vision statement right in there. Smooth, you didn't even notice until I said so. Whoops. And we're really excited to share these new revitalized brand entities that you might have seen. This is both the American Cancer Society as a whole, as well as Relay for Life, and all of our other brands that we have and that you may know and love, such as Making Strides Against Breast Cancer and everything else that we have. All of it's been rebranded to better reflect the needs of the organization. So this workflow was actually designed with a collaborative effort by so many people, volunteers and staff alike. And it's really exciting to be able to see this come to fruition. I know it's been since 2022, but you never know, it might be brand new for you. And if that's the case, don't worry. There's always ways to get more information and how to download these branding resources and many other cool resources from acsresources.org. On the next slide, if you want to be super duper cool, like Susie and I, and have the super duper awesome background, you could get it for free. What? Who does that? Okay. I gotta take it in. Thank you, Pam. I saw your head explode. Thank you for that. I don't see many faces, but that was one I saw. So on these virtual backgrounds, you can download these backgrounds, add them to your Microsoft Teams, to your Zoom, to your Google Meet, or any virtual conferencing platform. It took me 9 seconds to download it today and upload it into Zoom before this call. So I wanted to give a good estimate. So this is a really cool way. If you don't want to show what your background looks like, I just have a wall. It's very pretty, but you may not want to show your wall. So if you're in a meeting, you want to share this, you could definitely download this and a ton of other amazing resources from acsresources.org. Whew, almost there. The next slide. One of the key factors and the things that make Relay for Life so different from everything else, next slide, is that it's a volunteer and staff partnership. Thank you. See, Kayla, I got this. So one of the cool things about the American Cancer Society and Relay for Life is that this is the only organization I've ever been a part of that is truly volunteer-driven, staff-supported. That's why Susie, Jolene, and I are talking today. Kayla and Brian are helping with the chat, helping with registration. They're doing the support so that we can lead. And thank you, Brian and Kayla and any other staff on the call for giving volunteers and supporting volunteers with this movement. And it's really amazing because this volunteer staff partnership, it's the secret sauce that makes ACS what it is. And now I really want barbecue to go with this football game. Ah, Susie, got to change the theme for next year. I'm already getting hungry again. That's not good. But on the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit more about the volunteer staff partnership. And this volunteer staff partnership, is truly volunteer-led, staff-supported, rather than the other way around that you might have seen in other entities. As a volunteer and community-owned, thank you, Penny. I love that. And community-owned. We got to throw that in there somewhere. I just got sidetracked. But yeah, this is a really powerful movement because it's volunteer driven. And I can say ridiculous things like talking about barbecue and football on a major call with over 200 people here today. And that's completely okay because I can do that because it's volunteer led, staff supported. Thank you, Kayla and Brian again. Whoops, this is my last training. It was great to work with all of you. Just kidding, it's a joke. But anyway, as part of the volunteer staff partnership, as a volunteer, you become connected to your staff members. I don't consider Brian and Kayla my staff partners. I forget they are staff half the time. I consider them friends first. And that's really powerful about this organization and what makes the work that we're doing so different is that we are volunteers and staff working together to end cancer as we know it for everyone. Our overall goal, this partnership, there's nuance to it. Not everything works perfectly all the time, and that's okay. We're all people. And we're able to move forward and make adjustments to what we need to do. So as part of this partnership, it's very important to kind of set some boundaries and baselines, right? I'm not going to text Brian at 2 o'clock in the morning with my great relay idea. I might, but he's not going to respond to me. And I don't have that expectation of him responding to me at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? Unless it's relay night, we're overnight. That's a different conversation. But Brian, yeah. But it's very important to kind of set these baselines. What is considered an email? What's the turnaround time for an email? If I call you, is that a high emergency priority? Or is it like a quick little text thing? When you have an issue that arises or a question that arises, what's the most appropriate manner to move forward and address that issue? Susie, it's now 7:03. And that's what's really exciting. There's no formal requirement to have a clear-cut contract. It's just talking about how your partnership with your respective staff partner can operate and move forward. And that's what's most important at the end of the day, how we all can work together to end cancer as we know it for everyone. With that, I'm going to call the end of the first quarter. If anyone could blow the whistle. I can't. Thank you, anyone who could. But it's with great pleasure and with joy that I get to turn over to our coach for the second quarter. You ready? Need a drum roll. Come on. Yeah. Sorry if that was really loud for anyone. But I'd like to introduce Jolene, who's going to be talking about our second quarter and some amazing things happening. Jolene, or coach.
Thank you. Thank you, Zach, for that introduction. So Zach and I are kind of the bookend across the nation. He's all the way in upstate New York. And I today in sunny California. It's a little chilly where I am today. For like County, right outside of the capital of Sacramento, California. So I'm excited here today to share some extra resources. I am clean off as the outgoing California, Guam, Hawaii Way for Life enrollment into a training role. Now, I think it's just what else to do and everywhere that I go. Thank you, Zach, for that quick reminder of changing our virtual background.
We're having a hard time hearing you. You keep cutting out a little bit.
Me some volume. Hold on. Let me take my earrings out because they may be interfering. All right, is that better?
Yes. I would never have guessed that, but yes.
All right.
Oh, nope. We lost you again. We lost you again. Sorry.
Darn it. Okay,
Couldn't
hold
be that
on.
easy.
No, let me go ahead and just go straight to take my AirPods out and
See, just another great example of the volunteer staff partnership, right? The volunteers are doing this thing. Jolene's got some stuff. Brian tells
All
her,
right.
and we're able to move forward. So thank you, Jolene, for helping me stop talking.
Hey, no worries. Is that a little better, Brian?
Yeah. It's good.
Okay, here
Thanks.
we go. I'm going to apologize in advance. The game is on in the living room across the way here from me, so I'm going to apologize in advance. All right, so I'm super excited to be here today. And I really want to talk today about our second quarter is really focusing on some resources of how we reach our communities, right? So we know that Relay for Life has a pretty wide reach, but in order to reach everyone, we need to be targeted and we need to be really specific about what it is that we're doing when we're looking at connecting with our communities. So I want to talk a little bit about a strategy that we use called mapping for success. For some of you that have been around in the society or in Relay, you may have seen or heard of this strategy before, but it actually, it can be done with paper and like sticky dots. We can go old school with like actual things, or you can go digital and create this digitally. But I'm gonna go ahead and walk through kind of the steps and the rationale behind that. Next slide, Brian or Kayla. All right, so the question we have to ask ourselves when we look at mapping for success is, does our event represent our entire community? So are we limiting ourselves to our events to really focusing on just the people that we know, or the people that we work with, or the people that we've relayed with before? Are we really reaching out to connect with our entire community? Are we assessing our community and our committee to really make sure that we're meeting that need? Does this reflect all of the channels in our community, ethnicity, culture, religious, gender, age, etc.? Are there specific social groups that are in your community that are not represented in your Relay for Life event? So one thing to just keep in mind as we're going, cancer impacts everyone. So the goal is to create a committee as well as an event that represents the makeup of your entire community. Next slide. So in order to jump into mapping for success, we really have to go into kind of the nuts and bolts of this. So what is mapping for success? Well, it's a visual representation of where your committee and types of teams that you have is. All right. So the idea is that as a committee, you're going to set goals when you're mapping for that success. You're going to evaluate the current situation, set goals for what you want to do this year, next year, and beyond. Did you switch slides, Brian? There it is. All right. So what you'll need to get started. So this is where you can really get, pencil, paper, or you can go digital if that works better for your team. So you're going to need a large map of your community, city, or county, whatever your Relay for Life is encompassing. So in my case, for example, I'm a county-wide event. So I would need to get a county map. Fun fact, if you're a AAA member, it's a great place to get maps for free. You can also look in the back of the phone book. You can search, I'm sure somewhere there are at some point, or you can pull up a map digitally if that works better for you as well. All right. The next thing that you're going to need is you are going to want the addresses, like the physical mailing addresses of last year's teams, survivors, your ELT, as well as your sponsors. So you may need to grab a phone book or, just your phone and Google to look up some of these numbers or addresses as you go. And then you're going to want to get a stack of colored sticky dots. Those are my favorite, different colors, or just colored markers, different color markers to make this go. I too am a world teacher by trade, so sticky dots and markers are my jam. So there you go. So we're going to need those things, and then we're going to need a key for your map. So you're going to make up a key. So if you're using sticky dots or you're using markers, you're going to want to identify which color of a sticky dot is going to be your ELT, which color for your sponsors, which color for your teams, and which color for your survivors. All right, so you're going to go ahead and have that all laid out. So then the next part, the steps, if we go to the next slide, we are going to, and we're going to kind of have to imagine, but when you get together with your group and start playing around with this, you're actually going to take and using one color dot, find the addresses, find the location on your map, and put that color dot to represent your ELT with one color all over your map. You're going to grab the next color sticky dot or marker, and you're going to mark all over your map where your team live. Next, you'll go to your survivors on your map. And then finally, another color marking your team members and then sponsors. So what you want to do is you're going to start to see all these different color dots as you're going through on your mapping for success. Now, a couple of things to kind of think about when you're doing this. What are you noticing? Do you notice that your survivors or your team captains or your ELT are all coming from the same physical location in your map? Or maybe they're all congregated around a specific organization or entity in your community, right? So what are you noticing? If you're a larger county-wide event, are you representing all of the communities that are in your event? I don't know. So this visual representation kind of gives you that way to start looking at where the people that are participating in our event, where are they coming from? From there, you can start to set those goals. You're going to look at your map and think, ooh, I need to go ahead and reach out to this physical location in my community because I'm realizing that we don't have any survivors, team captains, or team members from this part of my community. I may look and say, oh my gosh, we don't have any sponsors from the west side of our county. It's all east side specific, right? So you're going to want to have some of those conversations and set those goals, which will then kind of set up your recruitment process and your recruitment plan moving into the next part of our slideshow. So next slide, Brian. So that's a big part of your plan, noticing trends, areas that aren't represented, and you're going to use this to make your recruitment plan. So now we're going to jump into what do you do with this information and how do I start recruiting? So we're going to talk about another useful tool that, again, is an oldie but goodie. I like to pull things out from the old times, if you will, or from previous years, brush it off, shine it up, and reuse things that we've really been have been successful. And the recruitment wheel is a recruitment strategy that has been successful for lots of years and for lots of people. So this, again, is another one of those visual representations of groups in our communities that are potential relay participants, teams, ELT members, sponsors, and more. So we're going to go ahead and jump into what this looks like. Next slide. So this is an example of a recruitment wheel. Okay, so some things to note. Our most successful events across the nation and across the globe really have representation from in their teams and committees, as well as sponsors and survivors from all areas of their community or all spokes of their recruitment wheel. So on this wheel, for example, you'll see that we've kind of chunked it up by different sections or pieces of the pie or spokes, if you will, right? So we have companies, health clubs, sports clubs, faith-based communities, even specific like insurance companies, cultural organizations, military, neighborhood associations, schools, colleges, and universities, social organizations. So just a bazillion different specific kind of areas, if you will, that you could tap into to see. Now, what you're going to do with your recruitment wheel is you're actually going to have to do a little research and kind of learn a little bit about your community. So what you have to look at with this is to go ahead and use this tool by placing a sticker or icon of the various teams and volunteers that you already have involved with your event and the appropriate spoke or slice of the wheel. So for example, if your event is primarily, which I know that my event is primarily families and friends based, we're going to have a lot of little stickers or sticky dots or icons or whatever in that family spoke, right? If you have one or two committee members or a sponsor or a team captain, maybe that's connected with a faith-based community, right? Like you're going to go ahead and put that to represent in that faith-based community spoke or pie. And you're going to go ahead and look at that, see what is already being represented in your event. Again, you're going to go through and see what's missing. Where do I have empty spokes, right? And so the slices of the wheel that have little or no stickers are the ones that we say are ripe with recruitment. This is that area of opportunity to really expand your reach of the organization. Now, I don't know about all of you, but people often ask me, how did you get involved with Relay for Life? And my answer is really simple. Somebody asked me to come walk. It was that easy. It wasn't this huge thing that brought me into the Relay for Life organization, into the American Cancer Society. Someone just asked me a question and I said, sure. And here I am a few years later, still involved. But that's truly all that it was. And so when we talk about this ripe for recruitment, we're really serious about that. But sometimes people don't know what Relay for Life is or what the organization can do. And so we want to make sure that we ask and put that information out there. I had quite a few volunteers that have said, I don't know if they'll do it. They don't know anything about it. Well, you have to give someone the opportunity to say, thank you, but no, that's not for me. Or they may surprise you with a yes, right? And I just saw in the chat, the answer is always no unless you ask. That's exactly it. So we have to give someone the opportunity to say no, thank you. That's okay. But that's what we're looking for. So we have a two-stream of being for success to look at geographical of your events and you look at the community as it's very large. We also at your recruitment wheel see, is it an opportunity to hyper focus or focus specific group of the organization. So I'm just going to second, were there any questions in the chat or anything before I move?
Jolene, one question in the chat was, is the recruitment wheel available on ACS resources? The answer is yes. And then the other is just right there at the end there. You're breaking up just a little bit again, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we couldn't hear any of that.
All right, let's give it a go now. Better?
That sounds
Okay.
better. Keep going.
All right, I just mute and unmute and call it awesome. All right, so we're gonna go into kind of what comes next. So you have to head out to your communities. This is the big part, setting goals with your event, with your current ELT, and head out to your community to make those asks. All right, next slide. All right, so what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna divide up the slices that don't have many dots. You're gonna wanna do either a drop by those businesses, make calls to clubs or organizations to introduce Relay for Life. You might ask yourself and your team, who do you know that's a part of XYZ? Who do you know that works at a school? Who do you know that volunteers with the Rotary Club, right? So you're gonna wanna see who knows who, and then you're gonna start making those asks. The big key Zach touched on today, we wanna share our mission, we wanna share our next meeting, and most importantly, we wanna share our own why. Why are we connected to this organization? All right, next slide. So this will get us really into the recruitment planning piece. So we've now gathered information of what we want to do and where we want to recruit. So here we go. When we look at this recruitment planning idea, we want to look at the needs that we have of our event. And this is really kind of focusing on our ELT, but also could be looking at a little bigger, piece on that. So what are the needs of our event? And it could be this year, it could be next year, it could be in 2 or 3 years down the road. And then I want to go ahead and list the skills or attributes that are needed for that specific role. So if, for example, I'm looking for someone to be my social media guru, if you will, for our event, I'm going to want to list some skills and attributes that would make a great lead for our social media, right? And I'm going to list those. And then I'm going to list a group of people who might make a good fit. Now I'm going to assign someone to make the ask or to start a conversation leading the ask. And then I'm going to go ahead and document that outcome. This is one of those conversations and pieces that this may not be a one and done conversation, but this is a great kind of graphic, if you will, that allows you to kind of organize your recruitment over the years, and as needs come up, and kind of go from there. There's a link in this, and I know that we're going to be sharing the slide deck out of this document, so you can edit that as needed, if you will. All right. So with that, we're going to go ahead and head into our 2-minute warning. Next slide. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about kind of following up with our recruitment planning. It's now time to talk to someone about Relay for Life. So we call it our elevator pitch, right? So our elevator pitch, we are not spending a 4-hour period of time trying to convince someone to join Relay for Life. We instead are going to go ahead and spend a few minutes. We call it an elevator pitch. Think about your elevator ride. We're going to go ahead and spend a few minutes to talk to someone. And so what do we want to do? We want to find the right person to talk to, or the decision maker, right? So we want to talk to someone about getting involved and really introduce Relay for Life. And we're going to go ahead and continue the discussion with our tailored pitch. And I'm going to kind of talk specifically about what that means. So as we're talking to someone about Relay for Life, we want to make sure that we are finding the right person to talk to and introduce Relay. What is Relay? We want to keep it short, keep it sweet, keep it simple, right? So Relay for Life is a signature fundraising event for the American Cancer Society. We also want to ask if these people that we're talking to, one or two, a group, are familiar with Relay for Life or the American Cancer Society. If they say yes, we're going to go ahead and share some specific details about our own event. If they say no, then we're going to pull it back and talk a little bit about the basics of the American Cancer Society and Relay for Life. All right. And that's really where you get to tailor that to talk about really what shines for you for Relay for Life, right? What is it really that's bringing you to the organization? So you're going to want to continue that conversation with your tailored pitch. So you're going to want to talk about how, and talk to this person about how they can get involved with their local Relay for Life. Are you talking about a team? Are you asking for someone to be a sponsor? Maybe you're asking them to connect with some committee members so they can help be a part of your committee to coordinate Relay for Life. Maybe you want to recruit some survivors and you're wanting to connect with other survivors and bring them to the event, right? We also want to make sure that we are acknowledging what we know somebody is either has some great skills or possibly what they've expressed an interest in. So the next part that we're going to do is we're going to wrap it up with an actual ask. So we're actually going to ask a question. Would you be interested in volunteering for our organization? Would you be interested in being a team captain for Relay for Life this year? Would your company be interested in being a sponsor for our Relay for Life event this year? So you're going to go ahead and actually ask the question. And we'll see what they say. If they say yes, that's awesome. Sometimes we get a no right away, and that's okay. Success doesn't mean we have to get a yes. It's just getting our foot in the door with a company or an organization or a group that's fantastic. So if we don't want to get that immediate yes, we don't really want to see that as an absolute no. It's just not a yes yet. So be sure to leave information with the person that includes your contact information so they know who to reach if they have questions later. Make sure you thank people for their time and listening to your elevator speech, really, or your time introducing Relay for Life to them. You may also want to ask, can I follow up with you again later? Is there a time that would be great to come in and chat some more about this? So you can make sure that you're still connecting with your volunteers in your event. So we want to make sure that the person that we're talking to has heard about Relay. If they haven't, we want to tell them a little bit about it. We want to introduce ourselves and how we're involved with the organization or on the committee. Make sure you leave information, so your contact information, your phone number, your email, those things, and keep it short, keep it sweet, and make the ask. All right, I believe from there, we're going to head to our next slide, which is going to be into halftime. And
Yes.
I get to turn it back over to our fearless leader, Susie Lawrence, for our wrap up.
Thank you, Jolene. Let me say how much I love the teachers on our work group. You guys are such awesome educators and facilitators. So thank you, Jolene and Zach. Appreciate you. Did want to open it up. If anybody's got any questions, you can come off of mute. If you're interested in anything that we've covered, we can certainly take questions. We did kind of go through a little quick in respect to realizing the game was on. So, and was there anything in the chat that we need to circle back to?
There's a score update for you if you're interested.
Okay, what's the update?
Michigan, we just jumped 17-3, 13-20 left in the second quarter.
Thank you, Zach.
And we also had a question, we've had it come up a couple times, so I'll mention it, about the slides that were used. Folks want all of the wonderful goodies in the slides. We will be sharing out the slides for both tonight and for Thursday nights as well. So you'll get those. We also had Karen shared, I don't know if this has been said, we do a lot of tabling at community events, and one of our leads always goes around to the other booths to make contacts. We hand out business cards with our QR code to invite people to relay. Great thing. And then we have business card templates on ACS resources if you don't want to start from scratch too.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. That's great. And we can always help with learn from other people and make great connections too at things like that. Anybody else have anything that they'd like? Thursday night is different from tonight. Glad we're helping you, Paige. I'm actually multitasking, people. This doesn't usually happen. I can read the chat a little bit. Anybody else have any questions before we wrap up? Hopefully you did catch on that ACS Resources has a ton of information, acsresources.org. All these trainings will be posted there. But if there's nothing else, I've kind of missed the chat now. I bragged about multitasking, so it always bites me. But hard to believe. I know it was a quick first half, but we had a lot of great information tonight. And thank you for the time that you've given us and your attention and input. Don't forget, our second half training camp is Thursday at 8 o'clock, and we are covering different subjects. We'll cover community partnerships, effective meeting tips, mission impact, and talk about the voice of the customer. Results not at the event level, but how to overview the 30,000 foot view of that. And I'm going to put a shameless plug in for our other upcoming online trainings. We've got multiple trainings planned for each month, and we're going to have some that are recorded and some that are live. We actually had one drop for being on the ELT recorded yesterday. It's great information and led by volunteers, and they can be found acsresources.org/relay4life/training, or just go to the homepage and navigate through. We're also going to have another live training January 25th, of course, after this Thursday's, that is going to be Relay 101. Some of the information will be, I don't want to say redundant, but duplicative maybe. You know, from what you're hearing tonight, but I think it'll have some different information, especially if you've got some new ELT members or even team members that you want to have join. It should have some great information for us. Also, if you'll notice on the slide, you can text RFL Train to 215-274-0329 and get updates on our training, which is really cool. I'm excited that that we've got that now. So let's see. Was there some question about the trainings? and where to go. They're going to be posted on ACS Resources, the recordings, if that
I'm
was
getting it.
okay.
I'll
You
I'll also
got-
do a shameless plug, Susie. We've had a lot of
Okay.
questions about finding things on ACS resources and
Yes.
being able to navigate, and it is overwhelming. But we get lots of requests for resources, so we have lots of resources out there. On that upcoming Relay 101 training, we will be talking about ACS resources and how to use it. So
Yes.
plug to join us then and ask questions and learn there too.
Yes. We'll navigate around in it. So, all right, if we haven't missed anything, anybody have questions, or if we missed anything in the chat, be happy to talk about it.
I have a
Reach-
question.
Yes.
So my question is for Jolene or any of the presenters, really.
Okay.
You talked about the recruitment wheel and your process sounded great. I'm wondering how big your leadership team is.
So I've done this with a variety of sizes of leadership teams. I've done it with a leadership team of 5, up to a leadership team of about 40. So it really just takes a minute, and you have to really look at what your goal is, right? So with a small leadership team, you're obviously not going to be able to pick every single pie to get represented, but you're going to start and add pieces of those pie or that wheel every year. With a larger leadership team, you can tackle a lot more in a short amount of time. But where I like to really think about when I look at that mapping for success, and then I take that recruitment wheel and put them together, I really like to look at where is there an overlap. If I look at my map, is there something that's missing that's also missing on my recruitment wheel? Because then I'm kind of using 2 resources to get more information. So does that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Oh,
You
we
gotta-
just had a question in the chat. Any tips on recruiting leadership team members?
That's a $1 billion question,
Yeah.
but another part of it is just, as Jolene mentioned, making me ask. That's how we all started here. I started because my roommate in college was like, there's an event happening, let's check it out. I didn't know what the event was, but I came by and I have not left yet. But yeah, just asking, or at the event being like, oh, you had a great time, would you like to join us? And kind of giving that blanket ask. There's no harm in asking. The worst that'll happen is someone says no. And if that's the case, okay, thanks for your time.
One thing that sorry.
No, go ahead.
One thing that I do, and I'm telling you, this year it's been really successful. I had an event lead, and that was it. And I asked her to find 2 people. And once she found those 2 people, I told them to find 2 people, and then them to find 2 people. And we're up to 16 people. So if you just continue to get those 2 people, 2 people, 2 people, and then once you get the committee to where it actually has a committee, and then ask them to find the person that's going to help them, they find 2 people. And that builds your committee just a little bit at a time. It's not going to be an overnight accomplishment, but just, 1 person at a time. And they build off of their own circle of influence, because no one has the same circle of influence. And so that helps you, just like you were using the map earlier, to not have those clusters, because someone's going to go to church at one place and another place. Someone works at one place and everyone else works at a different place. They go to have children that goes to schools at different places. And if they continue to work within their own circle of influence, and you tell them, talk to one person, have them talk to one person, you'll be able to build that committee a little bit stronger, a little bit at a time.
I was going to say, I voluntold one of my very, very active team captains and said, oh, because you've been so helpful, you're going to help. You're going to be the teams person on our committee. And she's like, what? And I said, yes, it's voluntold. I'm an educator as well. I'm an assistant principal. She's a teacher. So I felt like I could kind of go there with that.
Yeah. And it's usually the busiest people who are the best volunteers too. So don't make the assumption that somebody can't do can't do something extra, give them that opportunity to say yes or no. And also, I love our youth and young people, young professionals. I think sometimes we kind of get insulated and don't think about them for the communities. Don't assume that they're going to be your online person. Let them tell you what they want to do, but welcome them. They've got our college events are just awesome. And we can use that in our community events so much. We need that influx of energy.
Can I say something else?
Oh, absolutely.
I was just gonna say that I'm now at a high school. I used to be at an elementary school, and I was co-chair of relay back then as well. And I made my entire student council. That was one part of being on student council, was they had to volunteer at Relay for Life.
Mm.
And I mean, like, I had some kids that ended up being part of the ELT because they wanted to be. And they went to city council meetings, and they went to, like, we got a proclamation. They were the ones doing the talking. And people were like, these are fifth graders. And I was like, yes, they are. So kids can definitely bring a lot of energy to your relay.
Well, and I think it's important to remember, you know, and it's been said a couple of times on here, when you're looking for leadership, or you're looking for event leadership team members, a lot of times it starts with that ask of, hey, can you come help us with X? Like, not a lot of people will sign up for, oh, do you want to be our team recruitment lead? Like, no, that sounds very intimidating. I have no idea what that even is. But hey, can you come help us run the team captain meeting? Oh, sure, I can come help you run the team captain meeting. And then next thing you know, you've got your team recruitment lead. So, you know, just all about how you package it up. And I think many folks on this call will identify with that sort of like, I was asked to come to relay to walk or to see someone I knew. And next thing I knew, I was on the event leadership team.
Anybody else? This is a great conversation.
Hi, this is Penny. I'm from itty bitty Prescott, Arizona. And I would just also like to put out there, inviting like school groups to come and perform is a great way for them to like bring their parents. I know that that's how a couple of the volunteers that I know personally have gotten involved. So the more community reach you have at the different schools, different competitive cheerleading clubs, whatever it is, get them involved to come be part of your entertainment, and then get the folks.
A lot of shaking heads there. Yes. Agreed.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I certainly agree with the youth in the relay. They give it a lot of energy, but I don't want you to forget about the senior citizens. We have some elderly folks who have been participants for 10, 15 years, and they are totally old school. They write letters, and these people are the highest fundraisers for our relay. So don't dismiss how to do things the old way. It does work.
Agreed. I too am a senior citizen.
Susan, I love getting my students to handwrite letters to their family members and stuff. Usually it's some of their biggest fundraisers when they send those letters in the mail.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Emil says, looks like we've gone through the recruitment well. And yes, we can't exclude anyone. Great point. Anybody else? Okay, so if you think of anything else, how about we reserve some time on Thursday, and we can have questions before we start Thursday's training. We'll bring it up and we'll try to answer those questions. So again, thank you everyone for being on. The recording will be posted to acsresources.org in the next day or so, and we hope to see everybody again Thursday. Thank you guys. Have a great evening.
I thought it was one of the things up here, like participate.